I mean, Jason, this sounds like, to me, the gamification of war.
There's a point system for kills, right?
What is it like to be taller than everyone in every photo that you take with your constituents?
If you look through your peephole, you're going to see my chest sitting there. You're like, I'm not opening my door to this Neanderthal.
Hey there, did you see that? Drones have turned war into something that looks and feels like a video game. We're on the ground in Ukraine with new footage and new information. Then a former WWE star turned politician joins the program. And that's just the start. As you can tell, this is not your typical news show. We will catch you up with those in the know. Plus, we'll sprinkle in special guests, hear from our panel, hear from you. We'll have some hidden headlines and lots of surprises. But first, we call it the whip around. Cease what? The Iran war continues. More servicemen and women are killed. Is there hope for diplomacy, or are we looking at all-out war? Cyclospora from lettuce causing explosive diarrhea in 36 states. Are you concerned? Check out, please. 2/3 of Americans find groceries unaffordable while gas prices spike again. Our panel is going to weigh in, and caught on tape, 6 juveniles, one displaying an assault rifle and a sword, go after a 74-year-old man. All right, and we have much more to get to, but first, Ukraine's army of drones, this remote screen-based warfare, it literally resembles video games. I want to go off script to the guy who's on the front line, Scripps News senior international correspondent, Jason Bellini, somewhere in Ukraine. Jason, where are you exactly?
Hi, John. Right now I'm in Kyiv. I've been traveling around, but you got me at a moment when back at home base for a few days.
Talk about how conditions have deteriorated recently. I've seen some of your posts.
It's always different every time you come here. And this time, the rules have changed for us as journalists, because in the past, when you heard the air raid sirens, you felt like, okay, we're in the hotel with all the other journalists and diplomats. We're fine. They'll be able to take out any missiles. They'll be able to shoot down any drones that come this way. We don't need to go down into the shelter of the hotel. No, that's not the case anymore, because we know the Ukrainians are desperately low on their Patriot missile batteries. So now we have to take all the security precautions that are necessary, which means you hear the alarm at 1 a.m., you get up, you go down to the basement right now.
How do you stay safe from drones, but how does the general public stay safe as well?
Depends entirely on where you are. I mean, really, if you're within 20 miles of the front line now, you're at risk of being hit at any moment when you're outside or in a vehicle. Now, there are precautions you can take. There are routes that are covered by drone netting, but it's still a far riskier proposition than it was, say, even 6 months ago.
So, I mean, you've been investigating drones for a long time now, but now they're back in the headlines big time, as you know, because CENTCOM announced the death of a U.S. service member over in Iraq, this time from what they're calling the controlled detonation of an Iranian drone. I'd imagine that doesn't surprise you.
Not at all, especially when we're talking about these fixed wing type drones that are able to go pretty vast distances, right? And when you fly them in mass, which is what the Russians do, if they swarm them, and their decoys in the mix as well, it's hard even for the Ukrainians, who are, without a doubt, the best in the world when it comes to shooting down enemy drones. They're going to get some that get through, right? And they keep innovating on this. Now the Russians are putting turbo engines on the backs of some of these drones, so they're a lot faster, because the Ukrainians were getting too good at shooting them down before. Once they figure out how to solve for one thing, the enemy's already coming up with new innovations.
Speaking of innovations, and keep me honest here with my numbers, Jason, Ukraine produces 10 million drones annually, with plans to scale production to 20 million units. And apparently, and I think you have tape on this, they just hit a huge Russian warehouse that President Zelensky says contained parts for making drones. Can you explain this?
The company that they hit is called Wildberry. It's their Amazon. So this is one of their warehouses. So why would Ukraine hit a warehouse, a civilian warehouse? Well, President Zelensky says, no, this is no civilian warehouse. They have components for drones, ones that are sanctioned, components that are sanctioned, and that's why we hit it. And this is a big part of Ukraine's strategy of the moment, which is using their ability when it comes to long-range fixed-wing drones to go after Putin's military-industrial complex. Ukrainians are applying the same strategy. You fly a bunch at once, and some will likely get through.
This blew me away, and I want to share the video that you shared with the audience now. And I guess this is being shared by Russian military bloggers, and it looks like it shows some sort of heavy-duty Ukrainian quadcopter drone delivering a kamikaze robot to the battlefield. Is that a good description?
It is. I mean, I said this to you because I think this captures the moment that we are in right now. And they are literally using a big quadcopter, heavy duty quadcopter. It might be, according to one source, one that is even used in farming. And anyway, they lift up these drones they got treads on them. They're fairly small. I know these types of drones very well. I've been to the factory where they're made. They're literally kamikaze drones, one-way drones that try to get into the enemy bunker and explode, right? With some pretty massive power, but they're taking them by drone across enemy lines and setting them down, sending them off on missions, right?
Yeah, and speaking of human lives, I mean, you look at the cost of a human life, and it has been dramatically reduced, the amount of money it takes to take a human life. I mean, I think Ukraine's FPV units are talking about getting the cost of a drone strike down to about $1,000 per confirmed kill. I mean, Jason, this sounds like, to me, the gamification of war.
The gamification of war. In fact, mention that is interesting because one of the things I've asked several people about is how the literal gamification works here in Ukraine, where there's a point system for kills, right? You hit an enemy soldier, you get a certain number of points. You hit an enemy, you hit enemy artillery, that's more points, and you can spend those points to get more drones, more equipment for your unit, right? Stuff that is at a real premium, you can use it to purchase those items for your unit. So it's really incentivizing the pilots, and it's hard to convey in words just how dystopian it is right now on the battlefront.
I know we got to let you get back to work. I'm going to ask you your informed opinion. Last question, and that is, do you think Americans care about what's going on where you are in Ukraine?
My informed opinion is yes, they do very much so. And that's based on conversations I have with people when I'm back stateside. This war, how this turns out, the implications for coming decades are just enormous. Everyone knows that, and nobody knows how this is going to play itself out, not just in the long term, but from week to week.
Hey, Jason, stay safe over there. We're going to continue to check in with you and really appreciate your time and insight for sure. Thanks, man.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, let's stay off script now. We have former WWE superstar, former American Gladiator, you probably know him as the Beast, three-time mayor of a small town in Florida, and current Longwood City Commissioner in Florida, Matt Morgan. Matt, it's good to see you, buddy. Always
great seeing you, man. Long time no talk. Hope you're doing great.
I know. So where are you joining us from? Are you in your truck?
Yeah, I'm in my Jeep. My son was sick today, so we couldn't go on the summer camp field trip. His name is Jackson. He's nonverbal autistic, and so I'm with him home here today, and this would be the quietest place while he's taking a nap right now.
I got to ask you first, what is it like to be taller then everyone in every photo that you take with your constituents, I mean, does that put you in an advantage or disadvantage?
The one bad thing being an elected official and a public servant and being tall is when you're campaigning and you have to knock on somebody's door and you ask them for their vote. That's how I always done it. The trick to it for me is I knock and I back up 5 feet immediately. So think about it. If you look through your peephole, you're going to see my chest sitting there and you're like, I'm not opening my door to this Neanderthal.
Yeah, that would scare the hell out of me. Speaking of your size, you were in the wrestling game a long time. Any comebacks in your future?
Dude, I turn 50 this September. I'm still in one piece, and I'd like to keep it that way.
I'm going to take that as a no. Let's switch to your current occupation, politics. It is not easy to get elected multiple times as a mayor, multiple times as a city commissioner. Most constituencies can't agree on anything. So how have you done it, and what can politicians learn from you?
I'm in my third term, but I still learn from other public servants, and so I take the good and the bad of what I learned from others that have more experience. Even though I'm 3 terms in, I always still think you can always keep learning.
Obviously, you were in wrestling, now politics. I got to ask you about this testosterone issue. The defense secretary, Hegseth, wants to test troops' testosterone levels. Does the military need to be? Yeah, have you heard this?
No, that's Kurt. Wow, no, I did not know this. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, wants to make sure that everybody's testosterone level in the military is, up to a high enough level. So I was going to ask you, does the military need to be more jacked up? And when you were wrestling, were wrestlers getting regular shots of testosterone?
Yes. In my era, they definitely were. But the thing about Pete Hegseth, that's crazy. I did not know that. There's a lot of, if it's not being regulated, it's not being, super followed up on the person's mental health. That can also be an adverse reaction to too much testosterone. Who knows? But I'd like to say that he knows what he's doing, but that's the first I've heard of it. You saw my first reaction. I thought that was crazy.
Keep your eyes on that. We will too. A couple more questions for you. A new study came out that says 2/3 of people say that groceries are unaffordable. Obviously, gas prices continue to go up. What are people saying to you on the ground in Florida?
That's the reaction I'm getting from everybody is always like, what's going on? And it's coming from both sides. I'm a conservative, a very proud one, but I represent everybody. That's my job. So I speak to everybody on both sides of the aisle and my residents, and they're all very pissed off about how expensive the gas is. That was not what we were promised as conservatives that voted our president in. I know a lot of conservatives have a feeling about it. I still love our president. I just, they can't afford groceries. And like I said, the gas.
You do truly view it as serving all of your constituents.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we've gotten away from that too much across the country, where we're so divided that you have politicians that are truly just focused on their base.
What you said earlier, you hit the nail on the head, John. It is that divisive, even in our elected officials, where some of them won't even talk to Democrats. And if they do, they just kind of like, yes them to death. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Instead of really paying attention to what they're complaining about or what they need help with.
And before I let you go, Matt, what do you predict for the upcoming midterm elections? Do you think it's going to be a rough cycle for the Republicans, like many are predicting?
People don't like the domination of one party. Mostly America is in the middle for the most part, and I think they like a mix of both just to counterbalance out certain powers to be, if you will. And doing this long enough, in midterms, Democrats will win at least just the Senate or the House.
All right, let's finish with something light. What's the show that Matt Morgan loves to watch?
Right now, WWE Unscripted on Netflix.
You can take the man out of wrestling, but you can't take the wrestling out of the man. I just want to tell our national audience who may not know you, Matt Morgan, I've known you for a long time. I'm not kissing your butt, but the reason why I like to talk to you is because despite your political affiliation or whatever, you always tell it like it is. And I know your constituents appreciate it. That's why you've been reelected a million different times. So, Matt, thanks for your time and really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you to all the viewers and listeners. Thank you, guys. Keep watching my boy show.
All right, let's go side by side now with our panel. We're going to do a lightning round. I'm joined by Simon Kaufman, Scripps News producer extraordinaire, and Stephanie Alston, a viewer and a working mom out of South Carolina. Simon, I want to start with you. Cyclospora, everybody's talking about it because the explosive diarrhea. I'm going to give you my take, and then, of course, I'm going to ask you a question. My take is this. We don't know how many cases. There's a lag, obviously, in reporting. So even if there are tens of thousands of cases, it pales in comparison to like salmonella or something like that. So why all this fuss, Simon? What is your reporting telling us?
Well, I think all of the fuss is when you hear explosive diarrhea, that makes folks a bit nervous, as it should. But in terms of folks we've talked to, when we've heard from the CDC, you're right, there's only been 1,600 cases from May 1st. That's a lot more than we were at last year. But compared to a salmonella, there's more than 1 million cases of that a year. Norovirus, which is the most common cause of foodborne illness, there's 19 to 20 million cases of that each year. So this is something I was talking with a food safety expert. They said, you don't need to be worried, but there should be a wake-up call for how you should be treating your food always, not just when you hear about something like this. Wash it, rinse it, make sure it's safe. And if you want to be extra safe, 158 degrees Fahrenheit. If you cook your lettuce, anything else to that will kill off this parasite and others.
Look at this guy, 158 degrees. He knows.
I'm taking no risks.
And Stephanie, so there was a piece, an opinion piece in the Washington Post, and I want to get the headline right. The headline in the Washington Post on this opinion piece says, please don't stop eating vegetables and fruits because of Cyclospora. Be honest. Are you still eating lettuce, Stephanie?
Okay, so I actually sit at a very weird place in all of this. I am a vegetarian and I'm also the person who keeps Taco Bell in business. And so because of this, I am currently terrified to eat any grocery store lettuce right now. And I'm also terrified to eat at Taco Bell. What I have been doing, I've been relying very heavily on our local farmers market to get all of my produce just because I'm so afraid of everything at the grocery store right now.
That is an interesting take. And I mean, with all these false positives, we don't know where this came from yet. It spreads in feces, right, Simon? It starts with in feces.
That's typically how, Cyclospora can start. So if it's somebody in a field that, is working with the produce, goes to the bathroom, doesn't wash their hands, that can be the start of it. So we got that false positive. There's still some unclarity exactly the pinpoint of this. But RFK came out earlier in the week and said they've got it under control. I think the thing to be reminded of is don't be too worried, but do be safe when it comes to handling your food with this or any other produce, meat, fish, or handling.
This whole issue reminds me of a line from a song from one of my favorite bands, Local H, mayonnaise and malaise to go. That's what this whole thing reminds me of. But let's move on. Let's get to Iran, Simon. Secretary Hegseth giving us the price tag so far, close to $40 billion on the war in Iran. Is there any possibility, does your reporting show, in a diplomatic resolution?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say right now. And our White House team has been all over this since this started at the very end of February. And one day it feels like we're a step closer to something, and the next day it feels like we're 5 steps back. President Trump said earlier this week that he has no interest in meeting with Iran until Tehran says that they are ready for meaningful conversations. What meaningful conversations look like is, to be determined. So you never want to say never, but it doesn't feel like we're any closer than when Hegseth and President Trump and others said that, we were close to ending the war. And regardless of what you think of the reason for the wars and why we went to war and if it's a worthy cause, Americans across the board don't like seeing the cost of this and the human toll when, young U.S. soldiers are coming back in caskets, as we saw this week. Certainly that will have a political price as midterms approach us.
Yeah, for sure. And Stephanie, in part because of the war in Iran, Groceries, gas. I mean, this new Washington Post Ipsos poll says 2/3 of Americans find groceries unaffordable. What's your experience right now, Stephanie? Are you having to give up other discretionary, spending just to fill your tank and eat?
Everything is unaffordable right now. And I mean, and you think about it, right? When you think about grocery prices are unaffordable, but then we're dealing with all these outbreaks in our food. And so it's like, it's unaffordable and it's bad for you, right? And so for me, yes, I am seeing the higher prices at the gas pump. I'm also seeing the higher prices at the grocery store. I am literally at the grocery store every single day making life decisions on, do I really need this or do I not need it?
It is a tough time for a lot of people. All right, I have about 30 seconds left. Let me throw this out there to you two. We heard World Cup, World Cup, World Cup. Then the U.S. lost, but we still heard World Cup, World Cup. I watched the final too. But now it's like radio silence on soccer. Simon, when are we going to hear about soccer again?
Probably next year's Women's World Cup or 4 years from now at the next Men's World Cup. But we did see 60 million plus people in the U.S. tuning into that finals match. So there's excitement. Just imagine if the U.S. were playing in that. But it feels like it kind of peaks during these major tournaments. And then people remember that, what we call football here reigns supreme.
Stephanie, did you watch? Do you care?
I did not watch the entire World Cup, but I did watch the halftime show, and it was great.
Simon, Stephanie, thanks to you both. We'll see you next week. Everyone has an opinion and should. We want to hear yours. Text me, 202-968-2449. You see the number on the screen. What do you make of the economy right now? Iran, do you want to come on the program and join the panel? Text us, weigh in, do all the things. There is one young man who wanted to weigh in on the economy. He's a 10-year-old from Connecticut. Watch this.
Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy. Let's start off with grocery prices first. I personally don't pay, obviously, but I cook and I eat, which is also important. But sometimes I hear my parents talk a little bit about like inflation. But most of the stuff I use in my cooking is basically just oil, eggs, butter. But inflation's shooting those prices up. But hopefully in the future, those are going to go down. So when I am older and I have to pay, I don't have to pay as much. Now I'm going to talk about the gas prices. And I think these prices are outrageous. I understand that there's like a couple wars going on and that's why they're a little higher. But maybe just lower them a little because it's like over $4 a gallon these days. And that's all I really wanted to talk about today about the economy. I'll see you later. Bye.
And now to the hidden headline stories you may have missed with all of the other noise out there. I covered this case at America's Most Wanted. It was horrifying. Ronald Fisher, he escaped 21 years ago while on trial for rape. Now he is back behind bars. Kudos to law enforcement. These guys should be behind bars. Take a look at this video from the Baltimore Police Department. A bunch of juvies, one with an assault rifle and a sword, robbing a 74-year-old man. Cops in Baltimore, my hometown, looking to track them down. But look, I certainly hope we've done our part to catch you up. See you next time. I'm John Leiberman.